From unreliable engines to laughable styling, these vehicles failed to deliver what drivers wanted and left a legacy of disappointment instead. Ready to dive into the 13 worst and crappiest cars from the 1960s? These automotive disasters will make you wonder how they ever made it to production. The Reliant Regal, 1963 to 1973, is one of the most notorious vehicles in British automotive history, often remembered as much for its quirks as for its practical aims. It was marketed as a lightweight, three-wheeled economy car, designed to provide affordable transportation for the working class. In a period when many families still couldn't afford a full-sized car, the Regal had a specific appeal: its classification as a haute motorcycle. In the UK, meant lower road taxes and insurance costs. However, while its affordability was attractive, the Regal's design flaws quickly turned it into a source of mockery and frustration. The most infamous issue with the Reliant Regal was its three-wheel design, which made it inherently unstable. With two wheels in the back and a single steering wheel in the front, the car was prone to tipping over, especially when cornering at moderate or high speeds. This instability wasn't just inconvenient, it could be downright dangerous. Many drivers discovered that even a sharp turn or an uneven surface was enough to cause the vehicle to lose its balance. Driving it was like balancing on a knife's edge, one former owner recalled. If you didn't plan every turn carefully, you'd find yourself on your side before you knew it. The car's instability became so infamous that it was frequently parodied in British pop culture, most famously in the TV series Only Fools and Horses, where a bright yellow Reliant Regal Supervan 3 was used for comedic effect. The car's image as a bumbling, unreliable vehicle became part of its legacy. But this humor was little consolation to the actual drivers who had to wrestle with its quirks on a daily basis. Another major flaw of the Reliant Regal was its fiberglass body. While fiberglass was a practical choice for reducing manufacturing costs and vehicle weight, it also gave the car a flimsy feel that left owners doubting its durability. The material was prone to cracking under stress, and even minor collisions could cause significant damage to the body. Unlike steel-bodied cars, the Regal lacked the solid construction that might inspire confidence in its safety. Drivers often joked that the car felt like it might blow away in a strong wind. The fiberglass construction also posed challenges for long-term maintenance. Repairs were difficult, as fixing fiberglass required specialized knowledge and materials that weren't readily available to the average car owner in the 1960s and 1970s. This made owning a Regal a hassle, as many small garages were ill-equipped to handle the car's unique needs. Performance was another sore point. The Reliant Regal was powered by a Catenary engine, which offered little in the way of power or speed. While this helped with fuel efficiency, a key selling point for the car, it made for an underwhelming driving experience. The Regal struggled on hills and highways, where its low horsepower made it feel sluggish and vulnerable. Combined with its lightweight build, this lack of power didn't inspire confidence in the car's ability to handle everyday driving conditions. The mass interior set of the Regal didn't do much to improve its reputation. Designed with cost-saving in mind, the cabin was cramped, exciting, and sparse, offering little in the way of comfort or convenience. The seats were basic, and the overall finish was minimalistic to the point of feeling cheap. While this was understandable given the car's economy focus, it meant that the Regal often felt more like a glorified motorcycle with a roof than a proper car. Despite its many flaws, the Reliant Regal had its defenders. For some, it was a high stepping stone to car ownership, providing an affordable means of transportation at a time when alternatives were often out of reach. The car's a low running cost and made it appealing to budget-conscious buyers. And for those who could look past its instability and quirks, the Regal offered a degree of independence and mobility that might otherwise have been inaccessible. However, for the majority of drivers, the Reliant Regal was a frustrating and unreliable vehicle that failed to live up to even modest expectations. Its many shortcomings, unstable handling, flimsy construction, poor performance, and minimal comfort meant that it was seen as little more than a compromise for those who couldn't afford anything better. Over time, the Regal's reputation as a joke, rather than a legitimate car, cemented its place in automotive history as one of the worst cars ever built. Today, the Reliant Regal is remembered with a mix of nostalgia and ridicule. While it holds a certain charm as an eccentric relic of British motoring history, it's hard to ignore the fact that its design and engineering left much to be desired. For collectors and enthusiasts, the Regal is an amusing oddity, a reminder of a time when practicality and affordability took precedence over quality and safety. The Trabant 601, produced from 1964 to 1990 in East Germany, became an enduring symbol of the socialist experiment, both its ambitions and its failings. Designed as a people's car. For the citizens of the German Democratic Republic, GDR, the Trabant was meant to embody progress and equality, offering affordable transportation to the working class. However, what it delivered was a vehicle riddled with compromises, inefficiencies, and frustrations that made it as much a joke as it was an icon of life behind the Iron Curtain. At first glance, the Trabant 601 was a quirky little car. With its boxy design and utilitarian charm, beneath the surface though, its problems ran deep. The most notorious feature was its construction. Unlike most cars of the time, which used steel, the Trabant was built with Duraplast, a composite material made from recycled cotton waste and phenolic resin. While innovative, Duraplast lacked the durability of steel and gave the car a cheap, toy-like feel. Its inability to rust was one of the few positives, but the trade-offs were significant. Duraplast panels were prone to cracking, and the car's overall construction was flimsy, inspiring little confidence in its safety. The Trabant's two-stroke engine was another source of infamy, producing just 26 horsepower in later models. It was woefully underpowered. Acceleration was a test of patience. With the car struggling to reach highway speeds, the engine's design also made it incredibly inefficient and polluting. It ran on a mixture of gasoline and oil, which resulted in thick, blue-gray smoke billowing from its exhaust. The sight of a Trabant leaving a trail of pollution behind it became an iconic, if unfortunate, image of East German motoring. Reliability was another sore point. The Trabant was plagued by mechanical issues, including frequent engine breakdowns and a temperamental transmission. The build quality was inconsistent at best, with poorly fitted panels and rattling interiors that gave the car a notoriously shoddy feel, as one frustrated owner put it. Driving a Trabant wasn't so much an experience as it was an endurance test. Perhaps the most notorious aspect of the Trabant wasn't the car itself, but the high extraordinary waiting list required to own one. Due to limited production capacity and overwhelming demand in the GDR, prospective buyers often waited 10 to 15 years to take delivery of their Trabant. Families would sometimes register for a car at the birth of a child, hoping it would be ready by the time the child reached driving age. By the time many people finally received their car, it was already technologically obsolete, a rolling relic from a bygone era. Despite its many shortcomings, the Trabant 601 became deeply embedded in the culture of the Eastern Bloc. It was, for many, the only car they could realistically aspire to own, and its affordability and simple design meant that it could be maintained with basic tools and ingenuity. The Trabant also had a certain sentimental value. It was the car of family road trips, celebrations, and even daring escapes to the West during the collapse of the Berlin Wall. Its enduring presence made it a symbol of perseverance in the face of adversity. After the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, the Trabant became a bittersweet emblem of a collapsing regime. East Germans, newly exposed to Western consumer goods, abandoned their Trabants in droves, trading up for modern vehicles that offered the comfort, performance, and reliability they had been denied for decades. For many, the Trabant became a symbol of what they had left behind, a mix of nostalgia and relief. Today, the Trabant 601 is both as mocked and celebrated. While it remains a quintessential example of poor design and engineering, it has also become a collector's item and a quirky reminder of life in the GDR. Owners now embrace its flaws as part of its charm, taking pride in its simplicity and historical significance. Though it may never have lived up to its lofty promises of socialist progress, the Trabant endures as a cultural icon, a testament to the resilience of those who lived with it and through it. The Hesse AMC Marlins 1965 to 1967 was American Motors Corporation's attempt to carve out a space in the burgeoning personal luxury car segment. With its bold fastback styling and a promise of combining sportiness with luxury, the Marlin was intended to rival cars like the Ford Mustang and the Chevrolet Corvair Monza. Instead, it became a cautionary tale of what happens when a car tries to please everyone but ends up pleasing no one. At a glance, the Marlin's most striking feature was its hot fastback design. which AMC touted as sleek and modern. However, the execution left much to be desired. Unlike competitors that built their fastbacks on sleek compact platforms, the Marlin was based on the AMC Classic, a mid-sized car with a heavy bulky frame. The fastback roofline, which sloped dramatically to the rear bumper, looked awkward and out of proportion with the rest of the car. Critics likened its appearance to a whale on wheels, and its styling polarizes opinions even today. Former owners often describe the car as unique but ungainly. One owner recalled, "I loved the idea of owning something different, but every time I parked next to a Mustang, I couldn't help but feel like the odd one out." The Marlin's interior aimed to deliver on the luxury part of the personal luxury car formula, but fell short. While AMC outfitted it with a decent array of features, such as bucket seats and optional wood grain trim, the overall design was uninspired compared to its rivals. The cabin felt cramped due to the sloping roofline, particularly in the back seat, where headroom was limited. Despite being marketed as a car for stylish affluent buyers, the Marlin's interior felt like a dressed-up version of AMC's more pedestrian offerings. On the performance front, the Marlin struggled to deliver the thrills its sporty looks promised. Buyers could choose from several inline-6 and V8 engines, but even the top-of-the-line 327 cubic inch V8 felt sluggish compared to the high-performance engines available in muscle cars of the era. The Marlin's heavy body and soft suspension made it more suited for leisurely cruising than spirited driving. For a car aiming to blend luxury and sportiness, it ended up being neither particularly luxurious nor sporty. Reliability wasn't a strong point either. AMC's limited resources and smaller production scale compared to the Big Three, Ford, GM, Chrysler, meant that the Marlin's build quality was inconsistent. Mechanical issues were common, and owners often complained about problems with the car's suspension, electrical system, and brakes. This lack of dependability further tarnished the Marlin's reputation and made it a tough sell in an already competitive market. The Marlin's marketing didn't help matters. AMC struggled to clearly define the car's target audience, oscillating between promoting it as a family car with flair and a personal coupe for young professionals. This confused messaging alienated both groups, and the Marlin failed to establish a strong identity. In a market increasingly dominated by bold, focused vehicles like the Mustang and Pontiac GTO, the Marlin felt like an afterthought. Despite its flaws, the Marlin has its defenders. Some enthusiasts appreciate its quirky styling and value its rarity as a conversation starter at car shows. For a small but dedicated group, the Marlin represents a time when AMC dared to take risks and experiment, even if the results were less than stellar. Today, the AMC Marlin is remembered as a curiosity of the 1960s, a car that aimed high but landed somewhere in the middle. While it never achieved the success AMC hoped for, it remains an interesting footnote in automotive history, embodying both the ambition and the struggles of a small automaker trying to compete in a rapidly changing market. For collectors, the Marlin's unusual design and limited production numbers make it a fascinating, if flawed, piece of Americana. The Hillman Imp, introduced in 1963 by the Roots Group, was a bold attempt to challenge the revolutionary Mini in the growing market for compact affordable cars in the UK. Designed with a rear-mounted engine, lightweight construction, and innovative features, the Imp had all the ingredients for success. However, despite its potential, the Imp became a cautionary tale of rushed production, quality control failures, and poor decision-making, ultimately tarnishing its reputation and dooming its commercial prospects. At its core, the Imp was a car of innovation. Unlike the front-engine, front-wheel drive layout of the Mini, the Imp adopted a rear-engine, rear-wheel drive setup. Inspired by German models like the Volkswagen Beetle, its 875 cubic centimeter all-aluminum engine, derived from a Coventry Climax fire pump unit, was light and surprisingly advanced for the time, promising efficiency and decent performance for a small car. The Imp also boasted a fully independent suspension system, which was relatively rare in budget cars of its era, and a fold-down rear seat for extra practicality. It was clear the designers wanted the Imp to stand out. However, much of the Imp's promise was squandered by production and reliability issues. The decision to manufacture the car at a newly built plant in Linwood, Scotland, a political move aimed at creating jobs in a struggling region, backfired spectacularly. The workforce was inexperienced, and the plant faced numerous logistical challenges, including the distance from Roots' main engineering hub in Coventry. These issues contributed to poor assembly standards and frequent quality control failures, particularly in the early years of production. One of the most significant problems was the engine's tendency to overheat. The all-aluminum construction was lightweight, but prone to warping if the engine overheated, which happened often due to inadequate cooling in the tightly packed rear engine bay. Coupled with frequent oil leaks and a fragile head gasket, the engine quickly earned a reputation for being unreliable. Owners often found themselves stranded on the roadside, adding frustration to an already shaky ownership experience. The Imp's in transmission was another weak point, plagued by early failures and inconsistent gear engagement. Combined with the quirky handling characteristics of its rear engine layout, prone to oversteer in wet or slippery conditions, the car demanded careful driving, especially from those unfamiliar with its dynamics. For a car aimed at the mass market, these quirks made it less accessible to the everyday driver. The Roots Group's aggressive push to get the Imp to market meant that thorough testing and refinement were sacrificed. Early adopters became unwilling beta testers, facing a litany of mechanical problems that damaged the car's reputation. Even though Roots eventually addressed many of these issues in later models, the damage was already done, and buyers were reluctant to trust the Imp. Despite its flaws, the Imp had its bright spots. Its compact dimensions and nimble handling made it a capable city car, and its innovative design won praise from automotive journalists. The Imp also found success in motorsport, particularly in rallying, where its lightweight and rear engine layout proved advantageous. Enthusiasts who stuck with the car appreciated its charm and character, even if it required a fair amount of tinkering to keep it on the road. Former owners often reflect on the Imp with a mix of affection and exasperation. One remarked, "It was a car you couldn't help but love, even as it tested your patience. When it ran well, it was brilliant. When it didn't, which was often, you became an amateur mechanic out of necessity." Today, the Hillman Imp has gained a small but devoted following among classic car enthusiasts. Restored examples, particularly the later, more refined models, are celebrated for their innovative engineering and underdog status. For all its faults, the Imp remains an intriguing chapter in British automotive history. A car that dared to challenge convention, but ultimately fell victim to its own ambition and poor execution. While it never reached the heights of its rival, the Mini, the Imp remains a testament to the risks and rewards of thinking outside the box. The Chevrolet Corvair, produced from 1960 to 69, is one of the most controversial cars in American automotive history. Designed as an innovative departure from traditional American car manufacturing, the Corvair broke many norms. Its rear-mounted, air-cooled flat-six engine and sleek minimalist styling set it apart from the large, heavy, front-engine cars that dominated the market at the time. General Motors envisioned the Corvair as a response to the rising popularity of compact cars, particularly imports like the Volkswagen Beetle, and sought to offer something fresh to appeal to younger buyers and urban drivers. Yet despite its groundbreaking design, the Corvair became infamous, largely because of safety concerns, tarnishing its legacy and turning it into a symbol of the dangers of cutting corners in automotive engineering. When it debuted in 1960, the Corvair was a bold move for Chevrolet. Its air-cooled engine eliminated the need for a radiator, allowing for a low, aerodynamic front end. The compact layout created by the rear engine design provided ample cabin space and a roomy front trunk. The car also featured fully independent suspension, which was a rarity for mass-market cars at the time. It came in a variety of body styles, including sedans, coupes, convertibles, and even station wagons, catering to a broad audience. The Corvair was stylish, innovative, and marketed as the ultimate modern car for the suburban American family. However, the Corvair's design also introduced significant challenges. The rear engine configuration, paired with a swing-axle rear suspension, made the car prone to oversteer. This was especially problematic for drivers accustomed to the forgiving understeer of front-engine cars. Early models lacked an anti-roll bar, which made the rear end unstable during sudden maneuvers or high-speed cornering. Compounding the problem was the unusual tire pressure recommendation. Corvairs required lower pressure in the front tires than in the rear. Many owners ignored or misunderstood this specification, further exacerbating the car's handling issues. These factors made the Corvair less predictable and, in the hands of an untrained driver, potentially hazardous. The car's reputation took a dramatic turn in 1965 with the publication of Ralph Nader's book, Unsafe at Any Speed. Nader singled out the Corvair's swing-axle suspension and lack of stabilizing features, accusing General Motors of sacrificing safety for cost-cutting measures. His criticism was scathing, and while the book focused on broader issues in the auto industry, the Corvair became the poster child for automotive negligence. Public opinion swiftly turned against the car. GM's response to Nader's accusations was both defensive and, at times, underhanded. They even resorted to hiring private investigators to discredit him, a move that backfired and further damaged their credibility. Despite the uproar, independent studies conducted later, including ones by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, found that the Corvair was not significantly more dangerous than other cars of its time. By then, however, the damage to its reputation was irreparable. Chevrolet had already made changes to address the car's handling issues in the 64 model, adding an anti-roll bar and refining the suspension. The second-generation Corvair, introduced in the 65, featured a completely redesigned suspension system akin to the sophisticated setup found in the Corvette. This dramatically improved stability and driving dynamics. The 1965 redesign also gave the Corvair a sleeker, more elegant look, earning praise from critics and buyers alike. But it was too late. The stigma surrounding the car had already taken root, and sales plummeted, even beyond the safety controversy. The Corvair faced challenges. Its unconventional engineering made it more expensive to produce and maintain than competitors, while its rear-engine design set it apart. It also limited its appeal in a market where buyers were more comfortable with traditional layouts. Compounding these issues was the fierce competition within GM's own lineup. The introduction of the Chevrolet Camaro in 1907, aimed at the booming muscle car market, diverted attention away from the Corvair. Chevrolet ultimately decided to wind down the Corvair's production, quietly discontinuing it in 1969. For those who owned the Corvair, experiences varied widely. Many admired its innovative design and European-inspired feel, describing it as a joy to drive when handled properly. Others were frustrated by its quirks and the stigma it carried. As one owner nostalgically recalled, "It was a hair ahead of its time. It had its faults, sure, but when you understood how to drive it, the Corvair could be magical. Still, you always had to defend it at the dinner table." Today, the Corvair enjoys a devoted following among classic car enthusiasts who appreciate its bold engineering and stylish design. The Goggomobil Dart, produced from 1959 to 1961, is one of the most unusual and quirky cars to grace Australian roads. Manufactured by Buckle Motors in Sydney, the Dart was based on the German Goggomobil microcar platform, but was distinctly reimagined for the Australian market. With its tiny fiberglass body and whimsical design, it stood out in a country dominated by large sedans and utility vehicles. Its playful appearance and open-top configuration gave it an undeniable charm. But beneath the surface, the Dart was riddled with issues that made it more of a novelty than a practical vehicle. At just over 3 meters long and weighing a mere 345 kilograms, the Goggomobil Dart was exceptionally light, even for a microcar. The fiberglass body was a key factor in this weight reduction, but it came at a cost. While durable enough for everyday use, the fiberglass construction felt flimsy and insubstantial, offering little in the way of safety or structural integrity. The car lacked doors entirely, with passengers needing to climb over the side to enter the vehicle. This design choice not only added to its unconventional appearance, but also highlighted its impracticality. Furthermore, the Dart had no roof or side windows, leaving occupants exposed to the elements at all times. Powering the Dart was a small two-stroke, two-cylinder engine, which came in two sizes, 300cc or 400cc. The engine produced between 15 and 20 horsepower, making it severely underpowered even by the standards of the late 1950s and early 1960s. While its lightweight body meant it could move relatively efficiently in urban environments, acceleration was sluggish, and top speeds were limited to around 50 to 55 miles per hour, 80 to 90 km/h. This lack of speed made it impractical for highway driving, restricting its usefulness to short trips around town or leisurely outings on quieter roads. The driving experience was a mixed bag. The Dart's small size and low weight should have made it nimble, but its basic suspension and limited power meant that it often felt more like driving a go-kart than a proper car. On uneven or bumpy roads, the ride could be jarring, and in windy conditions, the car's lightness made it unstable. Safety was another significant concern. With no roof, no doors, and a thin fiberglass shell, the Dart offered minimal protection in the event of an accident. For many, driving the Dart felt more like a balancing act than a secure motoring experience. Comfort was nearly non-existent. The car's interior was incredibly sparse, with little more than basic seats and a simple steering wheel. There were no luxury features, no heater, no ventilation system, and not even a proper dashboard by modern standards. The cabin was cramped, making long drives uncomfortable. The open design also meant that drivers and passengers were exposed to rain, wind, and sun, which added to the car's impracticality. For many owners, the lack of basic comforts was an acceptable trade-off for the Dart's unique character, but it also limited the car's appeal to a niche audience. Despite its flaws, the Goggomobil Dart found a loyal following in Australia. Its quirky design and affordable price made it an attractive option for buyers looking for something different. It became a conversation piece, with its unconventional looks drawing attention wherever it went. Advertisements emphasized the Dart's playful personality, marketing it as a fun, easy-to-own car for short trips or weekend adventures. While it was never meant to compete with larger, more powerful vehicles, the Dart carved out a unique niche as a microcar with personality. Owners of the Dart often had a love-hate relationship with the car. Some fondly remember its charm and the joy it brought to their daily drives. Others recall the frustrations of dealing with its underpowered engine, limited practicality, and lack of safety features. One former owner described it as a car that made every trip an adventure, albeit one that required a good sense of humor and a bit of patience. The Dart may not have been the most reliable or comfortable car, but it had an undeniable ability to make people smile, whether they were driving it or just seeing it pass by. Today, the Goggomobil Dart is a cherished collector's item, prized for its rarity and its place in Australian motoring history. Restored examples are highly sought after by enthusiasts who appreciate its whimsical design and the slice of 20th century culture it represents. While it was far from a practical vehicle, the Dart remains a symbol of creativity and optimism in car design, offering a reminder that sometimes the most memorable cars are the ones that dare to be different. The Mazda R360, produced between 1960 and 1966, holds a unique place in automotive history as Mazda's first passenger car. Designed as a K car, it was incredibly compact and economical, aimed at providing affordable transportation for the masses in post-war Japan. While the R360 achieved its goal of being a cheap and efficient city car, its shortcomings were glaring, making it an impractical choice for anyone looking for more than basic transportation. At just 2.9 meters long, 1.3 meters wide, and weighing only 380 kilograms, the Mazda R360 was incredibly small by modern standards. It featured a tiny 356cc air-cooled, two-cylinder engine that produced just 16 horsepower. This made it incredibly slow, with a top speed of only 50 miles per hour, 80 kilometers per hour. While this was adequate for city commuting and short trips, the car struggled to keep up with traffic on highways or even on rural roads. The engine's lack of power and its high-pitched, noisy operation also made for a less than pleasant driving experience, especially on longer trips. The interior of the R360 was cramped, even by the standards of other K cars. It was designed to seat 4 people, but the rear seats were little more than an afterthought, offering minimal legroom and comfort. The cabin was basic, with simple upholstery and sparse features. There were no luxuries to speak of, and even basic amenities like proper ventilation or a functional heating system were absent. The lack of insulation also meant the car was incredibly noisy, with the engine's constant hum and road noise making it a tiring car to drive for more than short distances. While the R360 was designed to be economical, both in terms of price and fuel consumption, it came at the cost of comfort and safety. The car's small size, while making it nimble in city traffic, also meant it was extremely vulnerable in the event of an accident. The lack of modern safety features like crumple zones, airbags, or even seatbelts left the car dangerously unprotected in a crash. Its lightweight and lack of rigidity made it feel unstable on highways or at higher speeds, especially when driving in windy conditions or around sharp corners. The R360's tiny engine and slow acceleration meant it was hardly capable of anything beyond the most basic driving tasks, while its small size made it easy to park and maneuver in crowded city streets. The car was frustratingly underpowered when it came to anything more demanding. Drivers found it difficult to overtake other vehicles, and on longer journeys, the engine's constant strain made it feel as though the car was working far harder than it should. The lack of power and speed meant that the R360 was best suited to people who didn't mind crawling along at a snail's pace and were content with a car that was merely functional, despite its many drawbacks. The Mazda R360 played an important role in Japan's economic recovery and the development of the country's automotive industry. It was affordable, fuel-efficient, and offered a way for many Japanese citizens to own a car when larger, more expensive models were out of reach. Its small size made it a perfect fit for the crowded urban environments that were common in Japan during the 60s. The car's success helped establish Mazda as a key player in the Japanese automotive market, eventually leading to the production of larger, more powerful vehicles. However, the R360's limited capabilities became more apparent as time passed. It was soon overshadowed by more advanced and practical vehicles, and its poor performance, uncomfortable interior, and lack of safety features meant it was eventually phased out in favor of better designed cars. While it remains a historical curiosity today, the Mazda R360 is often remembered more for its symbolic role in Mazda's early success than for its actual merits as a car. For many who owned or drove it, the R360 was a sign of the times, an affordable and practical vehicle for an emerging economy, but far from the pinnacle of automotive engineering. The Simca 1000, produced from 1961 to 1978, was a compact rear-engine car that aimed to provide an affordable and practical solution for budget-conscious buyers. Designed by the French automaker Simca, the 1000 was intended to be an economical vehicle for families and urban drivers. Despite its good intentions, the car faced numerous challenges throughout its production, which ultimately hindered its success and reputation. The build quality of the Simca 1000 was one of its most notable drawbacks. While the car's design was simple, the materials used were far from durable. The interior featured basic and often flimsy components, with cheap plastics and vinyl that wore out over time. The build quality was inconsistent, and many owners complained of rattling parts and poor fit and finish. The exterior was similarly prone to rust, especially around the wheel arches and lower body panels. This made the Simca 1000 particularly vulnerable to the effects of weather and time, with rust creeping into the car's structure, diminishing its longevity and resale value. This was particularly problematic for a car that was marketed as affordable, yet in the long run, it required more maintenance and repairs than most owners expected. Performance-wise, the Simca 1000 was relatively underwhelming. It was powered by a 9.4cc four-cylinder engine that produced only about 40 horsepower. This underpowered engine made the car feel sluggish, especially on highways or when attempting to merge into fast-moving traffic. Despite its small size, the Simca 1000 struggled to achieve the performance levels of its competitors. Acceleration was slow, and the car was not particularly adept at maintaining speed without significant effort from the engine. The small engine, while economical, was noisy and prone to excessive vibration, further detracting from the driving experience. For a car that aimed to provide affordable and practical transportation, its performance was disappointing, leaving drivers longing for more power and smoother driving dynamics. One of the key features of the Simca 1000 was its rear engine layout. While this design allowed for a spacious cabin and a relatively small footprint, it came with several drawbacks. The rear engine configuration made the car prone to oversteering, which could be particularly dangerous in wet or slippery conditions. Drivers needed to be cautious when navigating turns or emergency maneuvers, as the rear weight distribution made the car less stable than its front engine counterparts. In terms of handling, the car's rear suspension system was basic and offered a rough ride over uneven surfaces. The handling characteristics, combined with the car's tendency to oversteer, made the driving experience less predictable, and many owners found it difficult to manage in adverse driving conditions. In addition to its performance limitations, the reliability of the Simca 1000 was a recurring issue. The car was known for suffering from a range of mechanical problems. Common complaints included issues with the engine overheating, which was exacerbated by the car's inefficient cooling system. Overheating could lead to costly repairs and was a frequent cause of breakdowns. The transmission was another weak point, with many drivers reporting difficulty shifting gears or the gearbox failing entirely. Despite its relatively simple design, the Simca 1000's mechanical reliability was poor compared to other small cars of the time. This diminished its appeal to buyers looking for a low-maintenance vehicle that would offer long-term dependability. The interior design of the Simca 1000 was also lacking in several areas. The car was marketed as a practical, budget-friendly option for families, but the cabin was cramped, especially in the rear seats. The rear engine layout compromised luggage space, as the rear trunk was not very large and the area was often taken up by the engine. The cabin felt utilitarian, with few comfort features and basic seating arrangements. Though the design was functional, it lacked the refinement and comfort of other cars in the same price range. The ride quality, further hindered by the car's basic suspension, made longer trips uncomfortable, especially on bumpy roads. The simplicity of the interior was certainly in line with the car's budget-friendly market positioning, but it left a lot to be desired in terms of overall comfort and convenience. The styling of the Simca 1000 was a matter of personal preference. While it had a distinctive look, its rear engine design gave it a somewhat awkward shape, with a high rear end that many found unappealing. The car's boxy profile was not particularly modern by the standards of the 1960s, and its proportions felt off. While compact, the Simca 1000 had a somewhat unbalanced look compared to other small cars of the time, such as the Renault 4 or the Fiat 500, which offered more appealing, rounded designs. The Bournemouth Ford Zodiac Mk4, produced between 1968 and 1972, was a large executive car designed to appeal to buyers seeking comfort and luxury. Ford aimed to position the Zodiac as a premium offering within their lineup, targeting consumers who wanted a spacious and refined vehicle for both personal and family use. However, despite its ambitious intentions, the Zodiac Mk4 faced numerous issues that tarnished its reputation and contributed to its eventual decline in the marketplace. One of the biggest shortcomings of the Zodiac Mk4 was its performance. While it was designed to offer a smooth and comfortable ride, the car's weight and lack of powerful engine options resulted in sluggish acceleration and poor handling. The Zodiac Mk4 was a heavy car, and this bulkiness made it cumbersome to drive, especially in urban environments or tight spaces. The lack of a truly refined engine meant that the car could not compete with other luxury models from rivals like Jaguar or BMW, which offered better performance and a more enjoyable driving experience. As a result, the Zodiac Mk4 was criticized for failing to live up to expectations in terms of driving dynamics, particularly when compared to more agile competitors. The Mazda's design of the Zodiac Mk4 was another point of contention. While it was marketed as a luxury car, its styling felt outdated and lacked the modern, sleek lines expected of an executive vehicle. By the late 1960s, consumers were looking for cars that combined both cutting-edge technology and aesthetics. But the Zodiac Mk4's design was relatively conservative, with bulky proportions and a boxy shape that felt more in line with earlier models. This dated appearance made it less attractive compared to newer cars in the same segment, which had more contemporary and stylish designs. In addition to its performance and design flaws, the fast reliability of the Zodiac Mk4 was a major issue. Many owners reported frequent mechanical problems, particularly with the car's electrical system, suspension, and engine. These persistent issues made the Zodiac less appealing to buyers looking for a reliable, low-maintenance vehicle. The car's mechanical flaws led to a reputation for poor durability, and owners often faced costly repairs and breakdowns. This lack of reliability became a significant drawback, especially in a market that increasingly valued dependability and ease of ownership. The Fiat's interior of the Zodiac Mk4, though spacious and comfortable, was not enough to redeem the car. While it offered plenty of room for passengers and a variety of features designed for comfort, the materials used were often cheap and lacked the luxury feel that many other cars in the segment offered. The upholstery and interior trim were functional but didn't exude the sophistication expected of a luxury car. The overall cabin design felt utilitarian, and the quality of materials used inside was inconsistent, which contributed to a less premium feel than what was promised. Despite these issues, the Mazda Zodiac Mk4 did have a few redeeming qualities. The large cabin and generous boot space made it a practical option for families or those needing ample storage. It also offered a relatively smooth ride, which made it a comfortable car for long-distance travel, even if it wasn't particularly enjoyable to drive. However, these advantages were overshadowed by the car's significant flaws in terms of performance, design, and reliability. In terms of total market reception, the Ford Zodiac Mk4 was ultimately overshadowed by more capable competitors, particularly from brands that offered better performance, reliability, and more modern styling. As the luxury car market continued to evolve, consumers began to turn to manufacturers like Jaguar, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz, who delivered a more compelling combination of luxury, performance, and prestige. The Zodiac Mk4's outdated design and lack of refinement made it a poor competitor in this growing market, and its mechanical issues further dampened its appeal. Today, the Ford Zodiac Mk4 is largely forgotten in the luxury car segment, often remembered for its mechanical unreliability and lackluster performance. While it did offer a spacious and comfortable ride, it ultimately failed to live up to the expectations of buyers seeking a true luxury vehicle. The Zodiac Mk4 is often cited as a missed opportunity by Ford, as it was unable to establish itself as a strong contender in the competitive executive car market. The Renault Dauphine, produced between 1956 and 1967, was designed as a compact, rear-engine car to replace the aging Renault 4CV, with the aim of appealing to everyday drivers looking for an affordable and economical option. The Dauphine was marketed as a practical solution for urban transportation. However, despite its promising concept, the car quickly earned a reputation for being unreliable and underwhelming in several key areas, which hindered its success in certain markets, particularly in the United States. One of the primary issues with the Renault Dauphine was its underpowered engine. Equipped with a mere 32 horsepower from its 845cc four-cylinder engine, the Dauphine was significantly slower than many of its competitors. While it was sufficient for city driving, it struggled to keep up on highways and lacked the acceleration needed for merging or overtaking other vehicles. This underperformance was a key point of frustration for drivers, especially those who expected more power from a car marketed as a practical yet modern option. Its lack of power also made the car feel sluggish and less enjoyable to drive, further tarnishing its reputation. The Dauphine's build quality was another major shortcoming. While the car was affordable, it came with a number of mechanical issues that proved difficult to ignore. Frequent breakdowns, particularly in the transmission, suspension, and electrical systems, became a common complaint among owners. These reliability issues contributed to the car's image as an unreliable vehicle, which caused many potential buyers to look elsewhere. In the US, the Dauphine became particularly infamous for its frequent mechanical failures, earning the nickname the Turtle for its slow pace and tendency to break down unexpectedly. The constant need for repairs frustrated owners and made them a less appealing option in an increasingly competitive market. Rust was another persistent issue with the Dauphine, particularly in areas with damp climates. The car's body, though compact and efficient, was prone to corrosion, with rust frequently appearing in key areas like the wheel arches, door frames, and undercarriage. This problem was exacerbated by the car's low-cost manufacturing process, which did not prioritize durable, high-quality materials. The Dauphine's tendency to rust not only affected its appearance, but also led to structural issues that further diminished its value and long-term reliability. In terms of design, the Dauphine was functional, but not particularly striking. While its rounded, compact shape made it ideal for tight city streets, it lacked the flair or style that would have helped it stand out in a competitive market. Its rear engine design, while a novelty at the time, led to handling issues, especially when navigating sharp turns or high speeds. Many drivers found the car's handling to be less responsive than more conventional vehicles, adding to the frustrations of ownership. The trusted American market was where the Dauphine's reputation suffered most. Renault hoped to break into the US market with this compact offering, but it faced stiff competition from more reliable, well-established American and European brands. In the US, the Dauphine's reputation for poor performance and mechanical failures overshadowed any of its potential benefits. It quickly became associated with low quality, and many owners experienced frustrations with its lack of durability. As a result, the car's popularity in the US was short-lived, and it was eventually phased out. Despite its shortcomings, the Renault Dauphine did have some redeeming qualities. Its low price made it an accessible option for many families, and it was relatively easy to park due to its compact size. It also offered decent fuel economy, which made it an attractive option for budget-conscious consumers. However, these benefits were not enough to outweigh the car's significant reliability issues and its reputation for poor build quality. By the end of its production run in 1907, the Renault Dauphine had become an example of what happens when a car fails to meet the expectations of its target market. Its underperformance, mechanical issues, and susceptibility to rust made it a difficult car to recommend, especially when compared to its more reliable competitors. Today, the Dauphine is often remembered as a quirky but flawed vehicle, one that never quite lived up to its potential and left a mixed legacy in the automotive world. The Fiat 850, produced from 1964 to 1973, was a compact family car that Fiat marketed as an affordable, efficient option for urban and suburban driving. It was intended to be a practical vehicle for everyday use, offering compact dimensions and decent fuel efficiency. However, despite its popularity in certain markets, the Fiat 850 became known for a number of significant flaws that made it less appealing in the long term. One of the most notable issues with the Fiat 850 was its poor handling. While the car's small size made it nimble around city streets, its overall suspension design and lack of refinement caused handling problems, especially at higher speeds or on winding roads. The car's suspension system struggled to provide adequate stability, and it was prone to excessive body roll, which made driving less enjoyable and, at times, unsafe. This was especially noticeable when taking corners or making abrupt maneuvers, leading to a driving experience that many found uncomfortable and frustrating. Another major drawback of the Fiat 850 was its tendency to overheat. The small engine, while economical, struggled to keep up with the demands of regular driving, particularly in warmer climates. The car was prone to overheating, especially during long trips or when driving in stop-and-go traffic. This issue was exacerbated by the Fiat 850's underpowered engine, which often found it difficult to handle the demands of long-distance driving or hilly terrain. The engine's performance was sufficient for short trips and urban commutes, but left drivers frustrated when trying to tackle more challenging routes. Speaking of the engine, the Fiat 850 came equipped with a relatively underpowered 843cc engine, which produced only around 47 horsepower. While this was adequate for city driving, it left much to be desired on highways or during longer journeys. Drivers often found themselves struggling to keep up with traffic, especially on inclines or when accelerating. The engine's lack of power also contributed to a lackluster performance overall, making the 850 less enjoyable for those who sought a more dynamic driving experience. On long trips, the car's engine could feel sluggish, and overtaking other vehicles was a challenge. The technical build quality of the Fiat 850 was also inconsistent, with reports of poor fit and finish in certain models. Some owners reported problems with rust, particularly in the car's lower body panels, and the quality of the materials used in the interior was often subpar. The lack of attention to detail in manufacturing led to various issues over time, including squeaks and rattles, which made the car feel less refined. This variability in build quality meant that some Fiat 850s were more reliable than others, but the overall perception of the car suffered as a result. Despite these issues, the Fiat 850 did have a degree of popularity, especially in Europe, where its compact size and affordability made it an attractive option for families and city dwellers. It was a practical car for its time, offering good fuel economy and ease of parking. However, these benefits were overshadowed by the car's mechanical problems and less than ideal driving characteristics. Reliability was another major concern for Fiat 850 owners. The combination of overheating problems, underperformance, and inconsistent build quality made the car less reliable over time. Regular maintenance was necessary to keep the 850 running smoothly, and even then, many owners experienced frequent breakdowns. This tarnished the car's reputation as a dependable vehicle. And by the time production ended in 1973, the Fiat 850 was already considered outdated in many markets. In conclusion, the Fiat 850 was a car that promised much but ultimately failed to deliver in several key areas. Its compact size, affordability, and fuel economy made it a sensible choice for some buyers, but its poor handling, overheating issues, and underpowered engine made it frustrating for those who wanted a more refined driving experience. With inconsistent build quality and reliability issues, the Fiat 850 never quite lived up to its potential and is now remembered as a quirky but flawed vehicle that had its time but couldn't overcome its mechanical shortcomings. The NSU Prinz Mk4, produced from 1961 to 1973, was a small rear-engine car that aimed to combine sportiness with efficiency. NSU, a German manufacturer, marketed the Prinz 4 as a compact and affordable option that could offer fun driving dynamics while being practical for everyday use. However, despite its promising intentions, the Prinz 4 struggled to deliver on its promises, and over time, it became known for several major flaws. One of the most notable issues with the Prinz 4 was its underpowered engine. The small rear-mounted engine provided minimal performance, which made the car sluggish, especially when compared to its rivals. While it was sufficient for city driving, it lacked the power to be enjoyable on highways or during more spirited driving. Its lack of acceleration made overtaking a challenge, and drivers often found themselves frustrated by its inability to keep up with traffic. The engine's small displacement also led to a high level of engine strain under load, especially when climbing hills or driving at high speeds. In addition to the lack of power, the ride quality of the Prinz 4 was far from ideal. The car's rear engine layout and lightweight body made it prone to harsh vibrations and noise. Drivers and passengers alike found the car to be loud and rough, with engine noise filtering through the cabin, making long drives uncomfortable. The ride itself was bumpy, and the car's handling, while not dangerous, was less than refined. Its suspension couldn't absorb road imperfections well, which led to a bouncy and then sometimes unsettled ride. The car's noisy engine only added to the discomfort, and it was difficult to ignore the vibrations while driving. The Prinz 4 also suffered from unreliability issues. Many owners reported frequent breakdowns, and the car's mechanical components were prone to failure. Electrical issues were common, as were problems with the engine and the car's suspension. These reliability problems contributed to the car's poor reputation over time, making it a less attractive choice for buyers who valued dependability. While early models may have had some charm as quirky small cars, their mechanical flaws quickly overshadowed any positive traits. Another issue was the car's styling, which didn't age well. The quirky and somewhat unusual design of the Prinz 4, with its compact proportions and distinctive lines, initially garnered some attention, but over the years, its looks began to feel dated and unattractive. Its design was also quite utilitarian, lacking the elegance or flair that could make it stand out in the increasingly competitive compact car market. As automotive design trends evolved in the 60s and 70s, the Prinz 4's styling became less appealing, and it looked more like an outdated relic compared to its sleeker and more modern rivals. Despite these shortcomings, the Prinz 4 had a small but loyal following, especially in its home country of Germany. Its compact size made it ideal for urban environments where parking and maneuverability were key. It was also relatively affordable, which helped it gain popularity among buyers looking for a budget-friendly option. However, its mechanical problems and lack of refinement ultimately limited its success and prevented it from being remembered as anything more than a quirky and underwhelming attempt at a sporty, efficient small car. In conclusion, the NSU Prinz 4 was a car that fell short of its ambitious goals. While it was marketed as a sporty and efficient vehicle, its underpowered engine, rough ride, and reliability issues made it a frustrating experience for many owners. The car's design, while unique at first, did not age well, and its lack of refinement prevented it from becoming a lasting success. Today, the Prinz 4 is remembered as an example of a small car with potential that ultimately failed to live up to its promises, unable to compete with the more reliable and refined vehicles that would soon dominate the market.
The Morris Marina, produced from 1971 to 1980, was developed with the intention of competing with the Ford Cortina in the popular family car market. However, despite its ambition, the Marina quickly became a symbol of British Leyland struggles. Its development was rushed, with much of the design work done in the 1960s, and it ultimately felt out of place in the evolving automotive landscape of the 1970s. A primary issue with the Morris Marina was its subpar build quality. British Leyland, already facing financial and organizational difficulties, was unable to deliver a vehicle that could meet the demands of quality-conscious buyers. One of the most persistent issues with the Marina was its propensity for rust. Early models were particularly prone to corrosion, leading to extensive bodywork deterioration and structural damage. This in turn contributed to a growing reputation for the Marina as a vehicle that would begin to fall apart long before it had reached any significant age. Additionally, the mechanical reliability toward the Marina was a major concern. The car often suffered from engine failures, poor suspension performance, and frequent electrical issues. Owners regularly found themselves making frequent trips to the mechanic, and many of the vehicle's components seemed unable to withstand the test of time. Unlike its competitors, like the Ford Cortina, which were known for reliability, the Marina's mechanical problems made it a frustrating and expensive car to maintain. Its underwhelming performance also contributed to its negative image. The engine was underpowered for its size, and its handling lacked the responsiveness and agility that customers had come to expect from vehicles in the same segment. The Marina simply could not keep pace with more refined competitors in terms of driving experience, and this made it feel like a poor choice for those who valued both reliability and performance. The styling cordiality of the Morris Marina, while not offensive, was also a major point of criticism. The car had a rather boxy, utilitarian appearance, and its design felt outdated by the time it was launched. The Marina lacked the modern flair that other cars in the market, such as the Ford Cortina, offered. It failed to capture the imagination of potential buyers, and its conservative, unremarkable design made it easy to overlook in a crowded marketplace. It didn't stand out in any meaningful way and quickly became associated with mediocrity. Perhaps most damning was their legacy core in the Morris Marina left behind. While it sold in decent numbers during its early years, the car's growing list of issues caused its reputation to plummet. Buyers quickly realized that the Marina was not the affordable, reliable family car they had hoped for. Instead, it became known for its car-instant poor build quality, mechanical failures, ducades, and lackluster performance. As British Leyland's flagship model during a time of corporate turmoil, the Marina epitomized the company's decline. It served as a clear example of how British car manufacturing was struggling to compete with more reliable, innovative brands from other countries. In retrospect, the Morris Marina was a car that never quite lived up to its potential. It was marketed as an affordable, practical family vehicle, but its execution left much to be desired. The combination of poor build quality, mechanical reliability issues, and uninspired design made it a disappointment for many consumers. While the Marina might have had a place in the market when it was first released, it soon became an example of what went wrong in the British automotive industry in the 1970s. The car's lack of attention to quality, combined with its mediocre performance, ensured that it was a product that would soon be overshadowed by competitors. Today, the Morris Marina is remembered not for any redeeming qualities, but as a cautionary tale of missed opportunities and corporate mismanagement.